everyone loves a great recruiting graphic, but remember the celebration is just the beginning. And the harsh truth is that like once you commit, that's where the real evaluation starts to heat up. The coaches are still watching. Scholarships are not locked in. I said are not locked in, and only athletes who keep improving really kind of keep their spot. And so today we're going to break down what really happens after you commit, the mistakes that could cost you your scholarship and your dream, and the habits that really set athletes apart and ultimately secure their spot and keep them winning. So stick around if you want these tools, the clarity, the insights, because we're going to be dropping gems in this episode. But before we get into all that, how you feeling today, Justin?
Feeling good, man. It was just a trying time in the summer. A lot of negotiations going in. We talk about commitments, commitments, NIL, collective, revenue sharing, all that crazy stuff going on. And, now that companies are starting to understand the NIL space, I think they're a little bit more advantageous of getting into the high school marketing space. So I've been dealing with a lot of that this weekend, but it's been fun weekend.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, like when you say companies, like what type of companies?
Figure like athletic companies, right? Like D1 Athletic, which is, the corporate partner from that standpoint. You have other ones, you got trading card companies wanting to get involved. And then you get into like the different ecosystems and colleges that can range everywhere. We start getting into like that North Carolina base. You start talking about Fayetteville. You start talking about different companies that want to be associated with athletes and making sure there's creative and protective deals around guys that we deal with.
Yeah. We did an episode about the legislation that was passed a few weeks ago. I want to follow up real quick on that. Like, has that kind of accelerated some things? Because you mentioned like companies are starting to really get into the space. Did that legislation really kind of, let's say, open the floodgates, if you will, for folks to really kind of start to get involved?
It's interesting. I don't know if it opened the floodgates, because when NIL opened, I think that's when all the pariahs or just, the leeches kind of came in. What the NCAA House settlement did was, I think, brought in a little bit more of a corporate presence, right? We talk about insurance companies trying to formulate what the employee structure look like for athletes moving forward. So from that standpoint, more consulting type of conversations in that space. And I think there's a legitimizing the NIL space when you talk about the NCAA bill coming over for people that don't really pay attention to much college sports. So we're like, oh, I can get involved. We can pay players. And so like maybe piquing their interest a little bit more. But even from that, it's still more, I would say, grounded than it was like 4 or 5 years ago when NIL just kind of busted on the scene.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting, man. I've been like tracking the space. It seems like there's a lot of momentum, and summertime is a busy time for two reasons, right? Like the season is right around the corner. So you got to train, get your team and your roster ready, et cetera. But it's still like a crucial period for like evaluation and like that next generation of athletes that's going to step on campus, with the camps and everything like that.